Alright, we should be live. We're back. We're working on Teval, Arbiter of Virtue. Here she is, in case you need a reminder of how she works. So, we've got 226 cards left on the list, so we need to cut 166 of them to get Teval down to 60 spells and then 40 lands. So we've got 3 sub-lists already for Teval for interaction, ramp, and was the third one again? Um, Card draw. So might want to do some of the more specific ones. Like I might want to look at reanimator cards and other positive graveyard interaction potentially. Like what's her name? Eternal Witness and stuff. See how many of those I have, because I probably can cut like 1 or 2 of the actual reanimators, and depending on how many regrowth effects I have, maybe one of them also. Excuse me. Running a bit late today. I woke up. I woke up at like 6 in the morning or something to go use the bathroom. I'm like, this is way too early for me to stay up. And as soon as my head hit the pillow, it became 11 in the morning, and then I had to go get lunch for everybody and yeah, I haven't even taken my shower yet today. We'll do that in between the deck building and the drafting today, so since I usually like to take a little bit of a break afterwards. Worldly Tutor, Necromancy, Buried Alive, Reanimate, Victimize. Those care about the graveyard. They're putting things into the graveyard. Yeah, I want the things that take stuff out of my graveyard now. Yeah, we'll look at the Eternal Witness and see how many other similar effects I have to her also. While we're doing this one. Okusho no, Myojin no. Grave Troll is more about milling myself than getting it back, so. Minion Reflector, Blood Chief Ascension, Hedron Crab, Oracle, Rite of Replication, Nighthawk no. No. Morph Soul Conduit. Grave Betrayal is getting opponents' things back and not necessarily from the graveyard. Deadbridge Chant can be a reanimator and can get me other stuff back from the graveyard, so. And is in there for that and the Mill 10 at the same time, so. Woven Ilea can put it back on the bottom of my deck, which we have plenty of ways to shuffle, so. I guess we consider that one for that effect also. Oops. Do that, grab both of these together because Whip can bring things back for a turn. Rufix, a DC. Torn Elemental, again. Well, not similar to the Grave Troll, because the Grave Troll is in there to mill me. The Torn Elemental can only get itself back. I feel like that's a different subsection, is the Torn Elemental, the Eternal Scourge, and possibly the Mist Hollow Griffin that I forgot to grab we were going through. If anything, the Mist Hollow Griffin might replace the Eternal Scourge because it doesn't have the targeted exile clause on it. No, those get anything back. Allow intervention, search. Rotha gets things back. Assassin's Trophy, Doom Whisper. Bond of Insight is about regrowing. Narset, Tam Tams is a regrow effect. Emery, yeah. Emery gets back specifically artifacts, but she gets them back. That is part of the reason why she's in here. Broko's self-reanimates. Hmm. Brokos is a bit closer to the other ones, but he actually comes back from the graveyard and is not about self-mill, whereas the other ones are like, I can exile these and then replay them later and then send them back to the graveyard to be exiled again. So I guess Brokos is closer to the Reanimator cards. I kind of count him as one of those. It has a lot in common with the play from exile cards, but he's not quite there, so I don't know. Null Priest is a reanimator. Binding of the Old Gods. Court of Carful is a recursive thing. I don't know if I need to put the lands down there, though. Godsy, Mortality Spear, Volo, Diagraph Rebirth, yes. Wait, what? Why did it give me the option to copy here? I want to copy. Weird. Never seen it do that one before. Jinga taxes. Shigeki gets things back. Shredder, Shoulder of the Apocalypse, no. World of Phyrexia is a reanimator. Among other things, we're up to 18 now. Reach is a reanimator. Invasion of Amonkhet plays into that. I don't think we count Vorinclex, even though part of his thing is to mill 10 and put 2 creatures into play from the milled cards, which is basically like Breach the Multiverse. Except that Breach can hit anything with, like, if I brick somehow on the mill 10, if I just hit a bunch of lands and spells on my part, I can still grab back one of my other dead creatures, and the same is true for anybody I brick on with the opponents if they have a dead creature from earlier in the game. Whereas Vorinclex is basically tutoring the 2 creatures from the top 10 cards in my deck and putting the rest into the graveyard. Rise of the Witch King, on the other hand, very much a reanimator spell. 21. Dropsy, Smuggler Surprise. Is technically a regrow effect. It gets back, right? Smuggler Surprise isn't limited to its own mill. From among the milled cards. Okay, so no. So not as good. 3 steps ahead. Blarb, Lumra. Wild Crypt has a regrow attached to it, or technically a Raised Dead, but 2. Did I do that for Overlord of the Bailmark too? Did I not put that he gets back from the thing? I don't think he does. I think he actually gets back from the graveyard. Like anything. Yeah, okay. So we did have him correct then. Yeah, milled this way, so Judger's Insight doesn't actually count. Awaken the Honored Dead, though, technically does. It gets back any creature or land on its third chapter. It's 23. Next Reanimator, which is Rise of Dark Realms. Okay. Animation / regrow. Make Dead, Dance, Necromancy, Animate, Victimize, Oversold, Fitness. I was just about to say, we're going to hit Rise of the Eldrazi and the Witch King, Smuggler's Surprise. Okay. Rise of Dark Realms. Alright. Alhamret's Archive, Dark Petition, Meteor Golem, Harvester's a Reanimator effect. Seeker, Archon, Persist as a Reanimator. Ripples of Undeath is more akin to the other ones where I just get one of the cards and put the rest into my graveyard if I want it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue that 6 isn't a Reanimator card when he lets me cast my permanent spells from the graveyard by discarding a land. Bane Transfusion, no. Siege Behemoth, Marin's a regrow effect. Grace's Judgment, Willow Dusk, Bane Witch is a regrow. Curse of Unbinding is not. I was checking to make sure I didn't need to, like, grab both of them. Skeleton Crew can reanimate itself, so that kind of gets lumped in with some of the other ones that I don't have on the list. Conscription, no. Cellar Spawn. Fanatic's a Reanimator. Yeah, Colossal Grave Reaver is more akin to the milling of cards and then getting one of those cards back than it is to Reanimator, even though it's literally reanimating the creature. Its function is a lot closer to getting to get one of the cards that I milled when I mill cards. Moors reanimates. Alright, and Sludge Titan, I didn't mess up the word, right? That gets back any card. I messed up the wording on that one too. That is from among those cards. Yeah, important distinction here, and I did not make it at the time that I wrote down everything, so. But I did for other cards, so. Kind of disappointed in myself, because that is an important distinction to have. So, Harvester, Persist. 6. Please does that, decides to do it when I'm in the habit of double clicking. It's like, oh, you're going to double click? Oh, then I'll just post it twice then. To annoy you. Alright, so that was a lot of Reanimator spells. Like, that is more than a third of the deck as Reanimators, and we do not have room for all of that. So. Alright. I think Dance of the Dead is actually one of the weaker ones because of the mana requirement to keep the creature functional. Like, I would rather have the one-time investment and, like, something like Animate Dead or Persist where it is slightly inferior to its natural body, but that's okay. We also have Reanimate and Necromancy at that point. It's possible we don't need Muldroth, though. We will be feeding the graveyard a lot, though, so should have the ability to pull stuff back pretty consistently. It's possible we lose Brokos. The upside to keeping Brokos is that we have a bunch of random things that make, like, zombie tokens for cards leaving the graveyard. So, making a zombie token and then casting Brokos from the graveyard onto one of those zombie tokens, making it a 6/6 trampler. He's basically like an equipment at that point that I can't move until the original creature dies. Yeah, it's probably not worth it then. If he were a significant upgrade to our commander, maybe, but since it's not, I think we can cut Brokos. It's possible we don't need Amonkhet. Like, it becomes a typically smaller copy, except in the few cases where we're actually copying something that was already tiny. But most of the things I want to be copying are going to be larger. Yeah, I can see losing Invasion. We have other better ways to set up, and we have other better payoffs for having things in the graveyard. So probably lose Marin. Honestly, we can probably lose Marin and what's its name? The Oversold Cemetery. At this point, like, we have so many other ways to get things back. I'm wondering if we actually want the Abyssal Harvester. Yeah, I can see losing Harvester at this point to make room for other stuff. Like, Harvester is better for exiling my opponent's things when I randomly mill them, like when I'm milling everybody and then getting stuff for me. He's gonna be better, and I don't know that I want to bother with that. Because if I'm stealing one of my own creatures, it's like, yes, I get the big body, but then I can't use him anymore to reanimate stuff. Like, even if an opponent's thing goes, unless I want to lose the thing that I already got, and now it's gone forever and I can't reanimate it anymore. It's not a huge deal, but I need to make cuts, and I think I can do slightly better than the Harvester because of that. Yeah, Rise of the Witch King is really tempting to leave in just because I get back any permanent. So I just reanimate something something that's otherwise difficult to get back by losing one of my creatures, and it killed a creature from each opponent on top of that. Their worst creature, but still. It's possible we lose Tamio. We've got a bunch of other planeswalkers on the list, and I don't think we necessarily need her. She is doing things that the deck wants, though, like being able to plus her to mill, and if there's a card I'm looking for in particular, she doesn't even make me lose that card. She does if I have to guess between a handful of redundant cards. Like if I need any reanimator spell and I guess, animate dead and then mill necromancy, it doesn't help for that turn, but if I need like a very specific spell, like I know I only have one thing left in my deck that's going to do the thing I need it to, I can keep naming that one to try and find it. You might still get cut though, because I'm just kind of short on room at this point. Possible Bond of Insight goes. This thing was also supposed to exile itself. Yeah, this is the this isn't the main copy though. I'd say I could cut Whip of Erebos because of the reanimation side exiling, and I don't have any way to stop that really. Like, I don't have any ways to blink my creatures or something. But I also am running it for the my creatures gain lifelink, so it's kind of going to stay for that, and the fact that it's a reanimator spell. Like, I kind of have to decide I don't need either of those effects that badly. So if I would have to convince myself that I don't need the lifelink side of it either in order to take it out of the deck, and I don't think that that's true. All right, so let's see. Harvester's one. Sold Cemeteries 2. There, 1R. It's 3. Common Cat is 4. Brokos is... Oh, there's 2 Ks in Brokos. Brokos is 5, I believe. Right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Dance of the Dead is 6. Alright, cut all of those off the list. Clear that off. Down to 200 even. Or 220 even. I wish we were down to 200 already. That'd be way easier. We only have 140 cuts to go instead of 160. That's so many cards still to cut. Alright. Look at the list now and see if there's anything that stands out as unnecessary at this point. Like, so many things have to go that I'm just going to have to start cutting big chunks of the deck. Do I actually need Memory Jar? This is just in here to get me some fresh cards and put things into my graveyard, and don't necessarily need that. Like, we have a bunch of ways to look at more cards and put cards in our graveyard. I don't think the Memory Jar... Memory Jar works really well with Emery, is the biggest thing. Like, if I can keep recasting Memory Jar from the graveyard, that keeps putting, 7 cards in the graveyard, and Memory Jar costs 5. In theory, it puts 7. Like, if I cast permanent spells, then I'm only discarding, 3 to 5 cards, depending on how many things I cast, but... As a general rule, I'm putting, 7 other cards into the graveyard, potentially. So, Memory Jar is not that hard to pay for itself, but I need Emery specifically for this to work. Like, I don't really have room for something like Academy Ruins, for example. Yeah, it's probably worth cutting Memory Jar. Emery still works with all of my equipment and whatnot. And, the Whip of Erebos, Bow of Nylea stuff. Still... I don't know if there's enough artifacts. Like, we might get rid of Emery just because she can only cast artifacts, and we're not super dense on those, I don't think. Anyway, let's look at some of the other cards we can potentially get rid of. It's possible Plague Spitter just goes, yes, giving it lifelink is great for gaining me tons of life, but I need to be able to give it it by itself is not good. Dealing an extra damage to me every turn and poking all of my creatures is not great. So it's got to be doing something else, and that kind of means it needs to gain lifelink at some point in time. Majesty, Traumatize, Mental Note. Maybe I need to do a sublist for all of the things that mill me. I probably have a few too many of those also. Full E-Witness, Kokusho, Myojin. Full Essence Warden. Bonds, Woodfall Primus, Endra, Reflector, I think I need a sub list for all of my self mill cards. These are relatively fine. Metamorph still kind of on the fence. It's more in here just because it's a good card than that it's anything deck desperately needs. Pontiff might be too slow and dirtily. Like, it itself is only a 2/7, and I'm not going super wide, so while I do get to actually extort our opponents because of the mana that we're saving off of casting our spells, I should have mana left over to extort if I want to. I don't think it's quite good enough on its own. So DC isn't mill this way, right? It's just whenever I mill creatures. Yeah, okay, so we do kind of want to keep Sidisi because all of my mill gives me creatures that way, so. Probably lose the retreat to Hagra. Still, draining my opponent's one when I landfall is decent at least, and can gain me more life with the exquisite blood effects. Because then I'm gaining at least 2 life and the opponents are losing a life. The +1/+1 counter, though, is decent on the retreat to Kazandu just because buffing any of my lifelink creatures, Teval being the default one, is fine. Okay, keep looking. Get rid of the obvious cards first, then we figure out the ones that are still good, but ultimately not the best for the deck. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on with this pile of cards. Could be Narset. Narset's more of a value card in Commander, stopping the opponents from drawing extra cards, than she is in here to do anything the deck cares about. The fact that I have a couple cards, or had, I think I'm down to actually one left, that could make opponents draw cards. It's part of the motivating factor for her making it in. I think we cut the Gravebreaker. I think it's worse than the Lotus Light Dancers for the most part, and I might not even have room for them, so. Storm Engine, Nighthawk Scavenger, Binding. Alchemist stays for right now. Holo. Rebirth, yes. Yeah, we can probably lose the Dreadhound. It's a worse Sir Conrad, and I don't think I actually need it that badly. Could still be Hoarding Broodlord. Okay in the deck. I know the thing can't pick it up, but if you've ever been listening to like my late night streams, occasionally my parrot bonks will show up and I can hear him in the other room just making all kinds of whistling and wooing noises. Very animated right now. We cut the one, Traverse the Uvenwald. Forget now. Because I'm looking at Analyze the Poison, and I think both of them are still on the list. Mill 4, bring back up to 2 creatures and lands. Put 2 creatures from my hand into play, and creatures with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible. It's possible we cut Smuggler's Surprise. It's doing a lot of different things, though, that are all good. And the fact that we don't lose a ton of life for its, like, more powerful effects. Like, if I go 2 green and 4 to put the 2 best creatures from my hand into play, I'm only losing 1 life despite Teval's game text, so. And I'm probably not spending 4 mana, so I'm probably bypassing a huge amount of their casting costs and the damage from Teval. It's not like we're hurting for card draw spells right now. In fact, we have too many on the list. Dredger's Insight is so tempting just because I gain a life every time something, like every time a creature leaves my graveyard. Artifacts too, but mostly the creatures. I have a lot of different ways to make creatures specifically leave my graveyard. It's possible it goes because it's a bit too low impact, but I feel like between the 2 mana to put up to 4 cards into my graveyard, and then the constant effect of gaining life when things leave my graveyard. It is very possible I want to lose the Lotus Light Dancers too, but at least for their 5 mana, I'm getting 3 cards in the graveyard. As opposed to the Gravebreaker Lamaya's 1. And it really does need to be that I need to put like a colorless card in the graveyard for Gravebreaker Lamaya to be the card I want. Like most of the time, I'm going to want to put at least um, one spell of 1 or more of the 3 colors I'm running into the graveyard. Slight temptation on Ugin, but I do have enough artifacts and a few of them that I can sacrifice and bring back later to actually cut Ugin here. Plus, he's always going to exile something just from casting himself, and he'll gain me life and draw me cards, so... One of his upticks. I don't think we can cut him. It's possible we cut some number of the weaker Time Walk effects, like, what if we cut Manipulation, Capture, and Time Warp, and just put Time Stretch on the list instead? So we effectively cut 2 cards, and then we just have the bigger, splashier Time Walks available. It could actually work. Do kind of want to keep Primeval Bounty. Like, I would be more inclined to cut the retreat to Hagra and Kazandu and just run Primeval Bounty if I was only going to run one of them. Because gaining 3 life per land and getting the other 2 effects when I cast my other spells. You know, again, putting 1/1 counters on my creatures when they have lifelink and being able to make extra creatures so that I have, you know, fodder for things, the ability to go wide if I super need to, all that fun stuff. Rise is a high-end spell, and Garrick's Wake is, like, they're a ton of mana, but they also do dramatically shift the dynamics of the game when I cast them, and the fact that I might be able to cast them without having to be at 9 mana. Like, these are the type of things, like, these things expropriate, where you just cast them and it feels like you're so far ahead if they resolve, so... Really want to give up any of them? Might have to give up some of them. We might have to narrow it down to a select number of spells, but... Meteor Golem I like because it's potentially free and destroys a permanent, as far as mana goes. And even if we're only exiling, you know, like 2 or 3 cards, it's still getting its casting cost down to a more reasonable number, letting us cast it on the turn that we need to instead of later in the game, because we're a little shy on mana. I think I have enough cards, especially other tutors, that Spellseeker probably wants to stay in. Archon's fine. Ripples. It's possible I don't want Ripples of Undeath because of the 3 additional life I need to spend in order to get the card back. Like, we have a bunch of other self-mill cards. I do feel like if I play Ripples of Undeath, for the most part, I'm going to just let the cards go to the graveyard and not pay to bring them back, but... Yeah, maybe we do lose Ripples. Maybe it's just too weak compared to some of the other cards. Yeah, still want to keep most of these. 45 minutes now. Bloodsucker. Sledge Titan. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more cards. Gets us down to 215. Saying I need to look at all of my self-mill cards. We can at least get that list put up, and then see how much time we have left. Cards that I'm using to mill myself. Buried Alive. Yeah, we'll also consider cards that take cards from my deck, like specific cards from my deck, and put them in the graveyard, because that's like the difference between card draw and tutoring. When I'm concerned about cards that will put other cards in my hand. Tuition kind of. It kind of puts cards into my graveyard. From my deck. Like, specifically into my graveyard from my deck. Yeah, it's kind of one of those. Because 2 cards are going to my graveyard regardless, so. Time Spiral, Victimize, Windfall. Factor Fiction. Deed, Entomb. Note. Slaver, O-Stone, Tooth and Nail. Principal. Show. Golgari Grave Troll, yes. Nation, Essence Warden. Hedron Crab, yes. Full Rite of Replication, Nighthawk. No. Hot Scour, yes. Dead Bridge, yes. See, yes. I do still have Traverse in the deck. Okay. I couldn't remember if I had cut it or not because I was thinking about it the other day. Search for Ascanta as a self-mill card. Doom Whisperer is in here to mill cards off my deck. Insight mills me. Amio mills me. Memory mills me. Yeah, there's a bit of overlap in the self-mill and reanimator cards when the cards try and set themselves up. Conrad can mill 16 now. Atris. Those ones. Arfel can mill. Adsy no. Volo no. None of those. Cemetery Tampering. Ledger Shredder is from my hand. Tampering is from my deck. It's 18. which is 19. This one definitely counts for Vorplex. It's 20. This is 21. It's 22. Lumer's 23. Overlord's 24, so after this now. Self-mill. Okay. So Factor Fiction, Entomb, Loot, Roll. All back to Duskmorn. Dredger's Insight is a self-mill card. Dead. Glacierwood Siege can be. And that's part of the reason why it's on the list, so. Slight Dancers, yes. Jace, on the other hand, absolutely. Six can mill me. So if I'm binding, yes. Attic. Other Teval mills me. Grave Reaver mills me. Screeching Scorch Beast. The Rad counters can mill me. Sucker. Sludge Titan kill. Okay. 55 minutes, so we'll set up the self-mill list, take a quick glance at it, and then we'll call it there for right now. Take my shower, do other things, and then we'll be back on drafting Dragon Storm for a little bit. Oh no, wait. We already had a partial self-mill list. I don't need to create a gap. Much like all the other things on the sub list, there are so many cards that it takes 2 passes to get all of them. We already got rid of a couple self-mill cards before. Is there anything else that just screams, I don't belong on this list anymore? Like, it's possible that Thought Scour and Mental Note are too low impact. They are 3 cards in the graveyard and replace themselves, though, so they're basically Dark Rituals for Teval. That cantrip, and I don't think I can argue with that. Oh, Hedron Crab, maybe? I do run a ton of fetch lands, though, so it's very easy for the crab to mill me a lot, and it's a cheap early play I can make. It could be Search, but I do like that we also get the land out of it later on. We'll start looking for other spells. Could be that. Again, Bond of Insight can go, and the more I think that, the more likely it is that it's going to. Cameo can possibly go still. Emery we probably want to hang on to for right now. Conrad's good. It's possible it's Atris. Being able to get a couple of cards in my graveyard, because it is only 3 cards for Atris, but he's also adding to the board. He might be low enough impact, though, in that regard. And he is in here primarily because he will get me a card or 2 into my hand and a card or 2 into my graveyard at the same time. You always get like an extra card's worth of value out of him, at least, and get at least 1 card into the graveyard to fuel Tevel, depending on if you get 2 cards out of him or 2 cards in the graveyard. Or if somebody gets really cheeky and decides to go 3 and 0 because they think I need the cards and I need the cards in graveyard at the same time, and they're not stuff that I can easily get into the graveyard. But that's almost never going to happen, so. Yeah, I do think a card like Cemetery Tampering is just better for the deck overall than um, the Undeath one that we cut before. I do have a couple of other things that will get back land from my graveyard, but Aftermath Analyst is so cheap that it helps get the deck going faster. Like, Lumbra is good later on to mill a bunch of cards and get the lands back, because I'll just be able to recrack the fetch lands and put them in the graveyard again. Anyway, but Aftermath Analyst being castable on turn 2, so that way when we play Tevel on 5, we might be able to cast a cheap artifact or something for free, or at least have, a few extra cards in the graveyard. Because I don't have an absolute ton of cheap self-mill. We have some. That's true. Overlord can be cheap for the black and 1 ending. Dredger's Insight. Looking at like the cheaper cards that get cards into my graveyard. There are some. Alright, I'm inclined to keep the Aftermath Analyst, and I think we get rid of Atris for right now. Yeah, like I said, we got rid of a few other cards on the list that fit this category when we were going through it before. Yeah, if we just get rid of Atris and drop it down to 214, I think we call it there for right now, and we'll pick back up next time. Like I said, I'll be back on in a little bit doing some drafts, and that's probably going to be it for tonight. Maybe I'll do like the Slay the Spire daily again tonight, but I have to believe that I'm not doing anything else. There won't be a cleanup stream for our Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough for tomorrow because of where we finished last time, so kind of need to finish the story bit that we're in the middle of before I can go wandering around doing other stuff. But yeah, it's going to do it for me for right now, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.